the Institute for the Study of Peak States presents the 5th International Psychoimmunology and Psychobiology Research Symposium. In this video, Connected in Autonomy by Georg Parlow.
Okay, so now we have our next speaker, Georg Parlow. So he's a certified therapist at the Institute for the Study of Peak States, but he's going to talk to us about some independent research that he's been doing. So his topic for the presentation is Connected with Autonomy. Over to you, Georg.
Hi, thanks, Shane. Thanks for having me. And as I was able to listen into the last minutes, mine is also Beauty Way, and what I stumbled across and what I've given the bottleneck of research, I am quite happy that I found another route to something that appears to me like a little brother of Beauty Way, and like a big brother of underlying happiness. And it's quite an interesting state that I happened to stumble upon, and we called it Phoenix state because it occurred in the midst of something that I termed Phoenix training, that was about new kinds of leadership, of competency-based hierarchies, and the necessary inner skills and soft skills that are needed in order to live that. And the for me most interesting thing about it is that I experience, and from the people that I have been able to interview who had similar experiences with that state, is that the experience is quite different if I'm in that state on my own, or if I share that state, if I'm in physical presence with others who also are in that same state. That's quite a different experience. And it's remarkable. It's really remarkable. So first, I'd like to describe you a little bit those two experiences, how that state feels, and then how I'm getting at it, how we are working in group settings to get a peak experience of it, and then we work with experience to state in order to stabilize it. And so far, the results are quite encouraging. If experienced on my own, it's a quite profound, but also very gentle state. It's this peak statesy quietness. There is less mental activity, and there's an emotional tranquility connected with it. And there is a good self-connection, I'd call it. There is a very tender way of being with myself. And now I'm sharing my experience, but it matches with those what people have told me that I interviewed and that I'm working with, how they describe their experience as well. And there is I'm not sure how to call it. There's a sense of freedom, of deep freedom, that could also be expressed as an agreement, like I agree with the way things are, and that results in a big sense of freedom. Or maybe it's the other way around, but there's this thing of freedom to experience, to be, to allow, And should. Yeah, there is a mild kind of happiness that fringes on ecstasy at times, but ecstasy, like the ecstasy that children have, not this kind of, not an excited thing. It's a very mild, very flowing, very nice state, and an aliveness that's connected with it. So all in all, it's quite nice. But in the moment I'm interacting with other people that are not in the state, it's hardly noticeable, except for that, I find I have an easier time in the situation with myself. I'm not rejecting the way things are, the way people are, as I usually do. Outside of that state, I'm almost constantly either in trying to reject the way things are or trying to make them different, trying to make people be different. And it's very subtle, but that's constantly there, and that's absent in that state. And now I'm getting to the point, how is the state experienced when there is a group of people experience that state simultaneously? And that's magic. That's just a magical space. There is still this connection in this, and it feels like a self-connection that's also happening with the others. In a way, it's like there is no other. And while at the same time, the presence of the others is experienced there's an emotional sweetness to it. There's a very heartfelt heart connection. There's love. While at the same time, there is somehow like our wills are connected, like this agreement, like finding consensus is not a finding. We don't need to find consensus. Like consensus is where we are standing on. There's arguments are unthinkable. And so-called, instead of an argument, if there are different needs, different interests, it's very, very clear, very simple. It's just a few sentences. And there is clarity on the fact how we're going to proceed. Like there's a deep connection of will. And besides that heart connection, there is somehow a will connection. And in another way, also creativity. Like it's somehow the experience is as if we are part of a bigger brain, and creative ideas pop up, and in the dialogue, solutions are created that none of us separately would have been able to think of. And the paradox thing is that in spite of that intense connection, there is no blurring. Like I feel very much as myself, just more expanded in a way. And in that state, working together, that's there is the sometimes stressed what we try to achieve with the Phoenix training, where it happened in the current state for the first time, so that this state caught my attention. This leading by competency, like in this group, it's very clear to everyone who is the most competent on any given subject at the time, and there is no resistance. There is no act involved at all in going along with what the most competent person's input is. And so there is near to zero friction. So all the energy that the combined people have can flow into the task at hand in an unparalleled kind of creativity. And the process is enjoyable, and there is heart connection. So that seems to be, to my eyes and understanding, a solution for groups trying to achieve things together. It's a very practical, very workable state. Yeah. So much for the description of the state and how we reach it. Oh, before that, one other point, it appears to me that now, since this state caught my attention and I'm talking to a lot of people about it, I'm going through other experiences, other past peak or peaky experiences, almost peak experiences that I just touched upon in various situations, and I realized that this state seems to be emergent. It's not far away. It's continues, it keeps popping up for people in groups who work on the individuality, who seem to go the opposite way of to come out of the usual social interacting and the usual being tolerant and finding common solutions in the old way, which is compromise. It seems to require the not compromising, that all members of a given group are fully behind, or fully for themselves. Like, I have my interest, I have my needs, I have my necessities, and with that, I am here, I'm showing up as that, with all the consequences, even if that means that the group is gonna kick me out. And in these days, there is quite a few, at least in my bubble, quite a few approaches, programs that people engage in that lead towards that direction. Like, there's radical honesty movement and authentic relating movements, authentic movement, where this is more practiced on a more bodily level. And there's this hailing of the ego, this I am most important, self-love is the most important thing, and there's this new agey bubble where this is really hyped, and there is put a lot of emphasis on it. And if we're getting good enough at that and coming together, we have a good foundation for that state to happen, that seems to be strongly connected with the fact that I am myself, regardless of what, and that I allow the others to be themselves, that I don't need to protect, that I stop protecting myself from the others. And it's we do that by shadow work, by actually it's quite an involved program. It seems it's 3-day programs that we do, where we work on one hand with free process work, where we pretty much like group dynamics, like those group dynamic seminars where people get together in order to find their own structure. Groups come together in order to restart or start afresh that process of creating a structure together without consciously or without make rules, without any preset rules. And that's at times, and it feels like doing core issue work in a way. It's core issue work where, we're in interaction to the point where we get a glimpse of where our worldviews don't really match, where we have different explanations for different for the same aspect of reality. And if that's close enough to home, that's quite difficult to face at times. And to just stick with that and to commit ourselves and to follow the it boils down, it seems to boil down to 4 aspects. At least that's my current how do you say that? My state of understanding that that we're constantly, our culture is geared towards I'll just take a look at I'm good in time. Our culture is geared at whose fault is it? This looking for outside things that are responsible for how I feel. And the other one that's in an axis with dishonesty. We're deeply, as a culture, we are dishonest. There's so many things that we hide from each other. All the stories that I tell myself about myself. It's either hero stories people tell themselves about themselves, or it's devaluating stories. Oh, I'm no good, I'm no that. And this constant, this down-putting, or it's a mix of it. It's both at the same time. And these are things that are not, we're not open about it. We don't really say how we feel. We don't really say what we want in order to not hurt feelings, or in order to not be kicked out, in order to not be avoided. And the victim mode and the dishonesty, they are strongly connected. And so we get together and are honest. And we get together and under the presumption that everyone in the room is solely responsible for their own emotions. And even if you kick my ass or kick my nose, we might, I don't touch the fact like who is responsible for my nose bleeding now, but if I'm pissed about it, I'm certainly responsible for being pissed, because I could also choose to enjoy it, or I could choose to be amused about it. But this is, for the most part, for the most people, this is a theoretical aspect. In practice, I feel I'm justified in being pissed, or I'm justified in not trusting you, or I'm justified in feeling lonely because you are not here for me, or whatever. We don't take responsibility for our own emotions for big parts. And that in this light, we come together and we interact. And we do our best to expose ourselves, how we are, with all our flaws and with all our competencies, that we're also afraid to be kicked out for. And the other axis seems to be we're not present. And that's part also, with the dishonesty aspect. Very often we don't say what we feel should be said in a situation with people, and withdraw into the inside. We don't engage anymore, or we engage half-heartedly, because what we really want to say, we don't dare to say. We don't think it's wise. And the fourth aspect is a kind of forcefulness. If we don't accept the way things are as a basis, we're usually forceful with them. We want things differently, which is different from changing things that I've accepted that they are that way, and then I change the course of actions. But that's going quite into detail. But apparently it did happen, and it does happen, that then all of a sudden part of the group or the whole group enters a state of full responsibility and of honesty to be myself, to really show up as we are, all the ugly details. And the experience of not being kicked out and of not being made responsible for the feelings of the others is somehow, and that's my hypothesis, putting one or more traumas that usually stand in the way to this peak state sufficiently to sleep, so that deep kind of connection and that peak state can be experienced for a few minutes or a few hours. And then we continue with experience to state. And yeah, I think, yeah, that's about it. That's what I've prepared, and I'm open for questions in case there are any.
Okay, thanks, Georg. That's awesome that you've got to experience that. As you said, there's lots of work in personal performance as well as group performance. So that's such a critical state to be in for performance. So well done. So Michael St. John's asking a question. So this state that you've described, has it been evaluated against the type of things that HeartMath have actually talked about? He said this sounds very much like what they call an entrainment state.
I've heard of HeartMath. I don't know how they describe the entrainment state, so I'm not really able to answer that.
Okay.
But part of my research has shown that people experience that usually at the end of programs that are aiming towards that are working with the heart rate variability.
Mm.
And I think there's a connection to
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, people have experienced it in day-long group dynamic seminars, or I and other people have experienced it at the end of evening things, you know, radical honesty, authentic relating games, you know, where you come together and you share things, you know, things like things I usually don't share are, you know, and then you just let down your pants, you know, and with strangers, sort of, you know. And at the end, sometimes there is this very, very sweet energy in the air, you know, but which kind of just scratching on it, you know. And at that point, usually, you know, you don't know what to say anymore. And there is this, and then after that, you know, that's the end of the program and everyone goes home, you know, and we fall out of the state again. But so it does seem to be fairly easily available.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick question. I think I've seen what you're describing in really highly functional research groups. The characteristic that I observed in them was a common goal. Does this match your experience, or is the group in random goals and yet somehow able to move forward?
The common goal is to reach that state. And before that, it was the idea of reaching a new level of leadership, developing and living a new kind of leadership. Like for the first trainings, we invited people who work with groups, people who are in influential positions and who are facilitators and people who run groups and do things that you know, we felt, oh, that's a good thing. I want to support that person in becoming better in life. So there is at least a common direction.
Okay, thanks for that. Okay, thanks, Georg. Oh, I've got another question. Oh, great.
So yeah, I've got two questions for you, Georg. So how long does it take to bring a group of people into that state? First question. And second question, how would you define leadership in that context?
How would you define what?
Leadership.
Oh, okay. The second one first. Leadership in that context is, as I mentioned in the beginning, this leading by competency, like that the group is the leader, and whoever, or the group spirit, or the collective mind, or I don't know what it really is, but it's not like in any given situation, it might be situated, it might rest with one or two of the people of the group. And according to the task, according to the thing at hand, it might be a different person. And the whole group, everyone in the group immediately knows or recognizes who is the one who has the most competency in that case. It's nothing, it just happens. And how long does it take to get people into that state? I don't know yet. It's around two days is one thing. And then just recently, a week ago, in a private setting, we just entered that state within a few minutes. But we were three of us, and two of us had experience with that state. And so that's what I'm experiencing. That's what my research now is. You know, how can we develop reproducible or what tools can we develop and tweak so that we have faster and faster reproducible results in reaching that. So I don't really have an answer yet for that. Just a few, like there is not enough data to make a clear or comprehensive answer to that.
I did have me think of a question. So given the world is so global now, and particularly since COVID, so many things are online, and we're a virtual organization ourselves. The work you've done, I'm assuming people are all co-located when they're doing this work to get into this state. I know you probably haven't tested this yet, but what's your view on whether you could do the similar sort of work in a virtual community or virtual group and achieve a similar or same outcome?
I can't say anything about that yet.
Right.
And of course, I'm interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
So far, it was always presence.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So thanks, Georg.
Thank you for watching. For more information, please visit www.pigstates.com.